What is going on, everybody? Welcome into another edition of the Daily Energy News Beat Stand-Up here on this gorgeous Monday, April 10th, 2023. As always, I'm your humble correspondent, Michael Tanner, coming to you from an undisclosed location here in Dallas, Texas, joined by the executive producer of the show, the purveyor of the show, and the director and publisher of the world's greatest website, EnergyNewsBeat.com, Stuart Turley. My man, how we doing today?
It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, and I'm on assignment here in Abilene.
You are on assignment. We love the if I would have guessed you were in London, but actually you're in Abilene, Texas. So that's considering the strategic artwork you have behind you. But we absolutely love it. It has been a little bit since I've been here. I've been a little bit on vacation the last week, so I'm excited to be back. And holy smokes, day off vacations do absolutely banger of a show. Lots of stories. First one we've got on the menu today: Energy Secretary, second gentleman, visit OU to discuss geothermal energy potential. I mean, that headline pretty much explains itself. Next one, we've got ExxonMobil stock, $1 billion here, $1 billion there. Stu's going to cover a really nice overview of where the ExxonMobil stock is, where it's going, and it's going to tie in nicely to the story we have coming up later. Next on the menu, G7 nations to emphasize the importance of nuclear power in upcoming announcement. Next, EVs may face barriers in Alaska, but experts say now is the time to act. How would you? I don't quite imagine people in Alaska firing up their Tesla in the middle of winter, but we'll see what this article has to say. Next one we've got is North Sea oil production could fall by 80% by 2030, according to new reports. This is absolutely insane. Stu's going to dive into all of that and kind of break down specifically this one. I mean, this is pretty scary. If I was in Europe, I would be very, very, very scared about this. He's going to kick it over to me. I'll quickly cover what's going on in the oil and gas and natural gas markets, and then we will spend the last part of our show talking about the biggest news and the article that we ran here on Friday. ExxonMobil eyes potential purchase of share driller Pioneer. This was originally published on Friday by the Wall Street Journal. We will dive into all things what that means. And I think there's some interesting dynamics. It's clear there's the M&A is going to lean big. So in terms of the companies they're going to be doing it, I don't think you're going to see smaller M&As, but I will give you all of my thoughts and a bag of chips then, guys. But first, check us out online, world's greatest website, www.energynewsbeat.com, dashboard.energynewsbeat.com. It's our data and news combo product. Get it while you still can. You never know where it may go. Stu does a great job of curating our website to make sure all of your relevant stories are there. I'm out of breath though, Stu. Where do you want to begin?
Okay, quick. For our podcast listeners, Granholm is standing there with her hands up like this, and then the second gentleman is right next to him. And I had to double take on that picture, Michael. Yep. Second gentleman, Douglas Enha. And I'm sitting here kind of going, how would you like to be known as the second gentleman? That is the husband of Kamala Harris. So, Michael, at Oklahoma University, OU, Energy secretaries and the second gentleman visit OU to discuss geothermal energy potential. Michael, this is actually very, very good. I want to give a shout out where a shout out is due, no matter how much I'm giggling as your job title. Michael, how would you like to be known as the second gentleman who's a dog walker of Sandy?
I'm about it. I guess. I mean, it's pretty funny, but now I'm interested in your praise because you're zagging when I thought you'd zig.
Well, here's the University of Oklahoma. I went to the other one. You notice my orange shirt for our podcast listeners. I went to Oklahoma State University, but the University of Oklahoma has an outstanding oil and gas program. And on the campus, Granholm and Enoff met with tribal leaders and OU energy experts at a closed roundtable discussion that how to power the potential of geothermal energy can be harnessed for the benefit of not only just indigenous communities, but everyone. And there's another article that we just did today, which is on the big oil companies transitioning into geothermal. So, I just want to give her, you know how tough it is for me to give her a shout out, but I do want to give a shout out that, like, this is a quote, this is really exciting conversation for us because the respect that this administration has for Native nations, also the potential with the territory tribal nations for clean energy. Michael, this is based off of the fact that EMP the great United States E&P companies can drill holes cleaner and more efficiently than any other E&P group in the world. And geothermal, Matt Welch over there at the Texas Geothermal group also, what a great use of all these wells. Starting to use those for geothermal energy. I'm very impressed by that. So
yeah, I mean, do you think the Venezuelan National Oil Company is worrying about emissions? Newsflash, they're not. So, I think your point is well taken. I also do find it funny. I do think it's interesting. One of the topics they touched on was trying to convert wells that have already, current producing oil and gas wells into geothermal wells. That'll be interesting to see if they're able to do that. This article, I love how they say they're trying to convert hydraulic fracking wells. It's like whoever wrote this doesn't even know what they're talking
they
about.
have no
they're
clue.
they're just getting the talking points. So I don't know if you're going to be able to convert current wells, but I do think there's an interesting move towards the geothermal space. I'll be the first to admit I know very little about geothermal other than people like it as a potential source. I think the same issue you're going to have, it's the transportation of the energy. Part of the reason why oil and gas is so convenient is because you can produce it, you can store it in a tank, a truck can show up, grab that oil, drive it away, and then all of a sudden that can be in months as it moves down the value chain, be turned into energy that can be used. It's very stored and portable. Right. What this is powering, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Stu, geothermal, you produce this hot water, spins a turbine, which produces electricity. Well, you have to send that electricity somewhere.
Well, let's
is
take
that correct first? Is that actually how geothermal works?
That is correct. Here's the side note on this, though. If you have the infrastructure already built and you already have the wells, this makes a lot of sense. There's another article that I'm working on right now, but let's take a look at the $8 billion that Texas spent in order to put the transmission lines from West Texas to the center part of the state for ERCOT, for all them wind farms that only half of them work at any given time. So if you tap into existing technology or existing infrastructure, it makes sense. If you're looking to power things in a local environment, absolutely. You hit on a big one, and the grid infrastructure is not there no matter what we do.
Yeah, so I think that I'm all about this. I'm with you, more focus on the grid. What's next? End with my good thoughts.
You nail it out of the park, dude. All right, let's go to Exxon. Michael, one of our most favorite lines when we started years ago was, what's a few billion between friends? Mm-hmm. And Exxon, $1 billion here and $1 billion there, properly spent is going to make a cost difference for the corporate break even. Then there's $1 billion here, low cost assets, followed by $1 billion there, sales of non-core assets. What this article is talking about is they are selling the sale of a refinery in the Washington state. And I can understand why, is they're getting out of Washington state because of the regulations. They're not bothering to put that in there. But the refinery had been around since 1949 and was no longer considered a core asset. They are actually running from regulations out of that state. So that extra money coming in is going to need to go somewhere else.
Yeah, I think what this article, I think, does a good job of breaking down the strategy shift in ExxonMobil, and it ties into the story that we'll talk about, which is the potential acquisition of Pioneer. But I think when you look at where strategically ExxonMobil is moving towards, they are diving headfirst into the E&P side of their business. You have to remember these super majors, Shell, Exxon, BP, Chevron. We think of them as they almost have three distinct separate business units. They have their upstream exploration, they have their midstream management, which is really being divested at a lot of these, and then they have their downstream chemicals business. What Exxon is doing is, they're getting out of the chemicals business. First, they're selling their refinery. They've already announced more sales of their chemical assets. They're writing down their natural gas assets that they bought from XTO years ago. They wrote those assets down. They're shifting and talking about buying Pioneer, all towards the E&P side. So I think when you look at where is their growth coming from, they at least think it's coming from the E&P side. And why would it not? at least from their opinion. They're diving headfirst into, one of their big discoveries is they're a part owner in Guyana, which is really ran by Hess, which, as we get in, I think there's some interesting things to talk about there, but they're a minority player and a non-op in that field. And a lot of their growth potential they feel could come from that. I forget who the Twitter name was, Stu, but I saw a very interesting tweet that we'll have it in the show notes here. I'll make sure to get it to Andy, but it basically showed that 8 Guyana wells are equivalent to 100,000. I don't know. It was either 12,000 or 120,000. I don't want to say one or the other, but either one is insane. Either 12,000 or 120,000 Permian 2-mile laterals. 8 wells, and the capital investment is similar-ish. It's actually a little bit smaller on the Permian wells versus Guyana, but you can see the exact amount of production that comes from these large, and that's what they're focusing on. It's, again, why they're focusing and why the rumor is they're thinking of buying Pioneer. Why? There's 800,000 acres in the Permian they could buy. So it's I think, this last part of the article, it says the strategy. Basically, management is selling high cost, low profit production and replacing it with lower cost production. I mean, that sounds simple, but it's easier said than done. Trust me, I'm dealing with that all day right now. It is easier said than done. And you have to credit this management team for doing it. When everybody's going into alternative energy, they're going back to basics. They're going back to Standard Oil. John Rockefeller would be proud.
Yes, and let me throw this squirrel at you there, Michael. The reason that I like what management is doing is because of Scope 1, Scope 2, and Scope 3 emission controls that are coming around the corner. If you get out of where the refinery and the actual manufacturing of those things, getting out of the Scope 3 emissions barrier is huge. I would be running from refined products as soon as I possibly can. Hats off to them for doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think it's, you said it best. What's next, Stu?
I always like it when you just are lost for words. You're going, man, that was actually almost intelligence, Stu.
That was cogent. Let's move on before we ruin it.
G7 nations to emphasize the importance of nuclear power in upcoming announcement. Okay.
Give me this.
I'm over here kind of going, you're also seeing it in another article that I was working on, and that is that in COP28, they're also now admitting that they're all behind nuclear. So we're seeing a paradigm shift, Michael. You're seeing that Exxon is getting back out of the renewable. You're seeing them going back to their basics. You're seeing that the EU, and this started years ago, and it's just now coming of age, is the nuclear is now okay again. The problem is nuclear is going to take 20 years to come online unless it's done through modular reactors. In this article, it says, the statement seen Friday it's the third paragraph down. The statement seen on Friday is likely to note that the G7 countries welcome Japan's plan to release treated water from the crippled Fukushima #1 nuclear plant into the ocean as a transparent way and in close coordination with the International Atomic Agency, according to draft. I think they've done a great job cleaning that up and getting that done. And this goes.
But now they're just going to dump that water into the ocean.
Oh, it's after all the cleaning up and everything else. I feel very good about it. Now, I would drink it. The difference is between this and Ohio is, as Dr. Chalmers pointed out on one of our other podcasts, the polychlorides are tougher to clean up than atomic. The atomics can be filtered out. And so I trust that.
Okay, good.
I trust Dr. Chalmers, and the polychlorides cannot. I would be very upset if they were going to be doing that and dumping.
So do you think, so your contention is that COP28, which is when, 2024?
Yeah, I have to go get my notes, but yes.
something around there. But so you think they're going to go hard nuclear?
They already are. I mean, it's already, now it's gone out there. I mean, let's take the United States. We have 92 reactors running. It took us 15 years to get the last one that's just coming online approved. France has 51 nuclear reactors. 25 of them are down because of maintenance dollars that they have not put any maintenance dollars in. So all of a sudden, you're now going to have 80% of the nuclear fleet is over 24 years old. That's a horrible number. We better get some more nukes on the way.
Yeah, no kidding. Kidding. So I got to hear about Alaska. Let's see this next one.
Okay, Michael, I'm a big Alaska fan. You know, I love my time up there, love going up there. But EVs face many barriers in Alaska, but experts say the time to act is now, Michael. And I have to say, but how would you? That picture for is my son took that picture in Anchorage. Now, Michael, what happens to batteries in the cold?
They don't work as well.
They lose 60% of their capacity. It's like shrinkage on steroids, you know, the old Seinfeld shrinkage story. Well, your batteries lose power. So we're going to have to come up with a whole new name for that. But how in the world in Alaska, when it gets 16 below zero in many of the places there, I mean, your Tesla's going to poke its nose out of the garage and go, not today. So
that's exactly what.
and I just got tickled. And there's now saying this type of charging is now great again in Alaska. Let me get a quote here. One of the challenges we have in Alaska is the distance between communities. Really? Our holes within the grid are different. There are more microgrids in Alaska than there are anything else. And I don't see EVs taking on up there. I just thought it was kind of fun.
Yeah, I mean, you're an idiot if you think EVs are going to take off in Alaska to begin with. I mean, they're going to be those cold weather environments are going to be the last place in which we see EVs rolled out unless there's a strategic research and development program to create cold weather batteries. Right now, it's not. We're just trying to create batteries that work better. They're not necessarily designed to work in the cold. So I have nothing to add other than you're an idiot if you actually think people in Alaska are going to use this.
You're smoking something. I think peyote.
I'd like to try.
Yeah, let's try some peyote on that one. Okay. North Sea. Do you get secondhand smoke from peyote?
I don't know.
We'll have to try that out. North Sea oil production could fall by 80% in 2030. Michael, this is frightening. And when you consider, I think that number is going to go even worse sooner. And, you know, I'm always a good pessimist a lot of times. Offshore energies, this is in the second paragraph, found that 90% of offshore firms had reduced the spending in the North Sea, amounting to billions in total. It determined the lower number of estimate that could result in a decrease in production by 80% in 2030, equivalent to 500 million fewer barrels of oil if the government cannot attract more funding to the waters.
Ooh.
Do you know what that'll do to oil?
It's going to send it skyrocketing, but I think what it really does is the energy security for that region. They just want to become more reliant on Russia.
What this is going to do is the North Sea is critical from a lot of different areas. And you have Scotland providing oil to the UK. You have Norway providing out of the North Sea coming in. Norway is doing a lot of that via gas pipelines through those 8 connecting points through there. That is where it's also going to be impacting, is Norway's natural gas. All of a sudden, you are not going to be able to go renewable between now and 2030 enough to even think about doing this. So this article is an eye opener, but it's even more of an eye opener for North Sea natural gas. Oh,
Yeah, and again, it all comes back to windfall profit tax. I mean, it's just a dumb idea.
yeah. All right. Hey, let's go to the next one here. That's it for me, man. I think you got the next one coming around the corner here, Michael.
I do. Job. We'll get to the Exxon story here shortly. I think first we'll just cover what's going on in the overall markets. Actually, we record this on Easter. Happy Easter, everybody. I think the interesting part is we're going to see the markets open on the gas on the oil side at about $80.70, where they currently settle at $80.46 on Friday. Natural gas should start actually, unfortunately, a little bit down. Market settled at $2.03. Looks like we'll be trading down to about $2.01 when those markets open here shortly. Obviously last week with me being on vacation, we missed a lot of the OPEC surprise announcement. I think we were able to cover it on Sunday night a little bit. But that's really been able to sustain prices above 80, which is, great all around. No one's going to complain about $80. I like that portion. The real question is, how much higher will it run here? And, I think some of the articles that Stu talked about with North Sea production, that's going to start rolling in here. But again, I think we need to get back to the financialization of oil. What's going to happen as we continue the economic situation in the United States? If it continues to tumble, the OPEC can only do so much. If we enter a true global recession, OPEC's not going to just cut oil to nothing to have $100. There's at some point a place where okay, fine. If it's $60, we're just going to start turning the taps on, which is possible. And, quite honestly, having lower energy prices is, most of the world would love. I love $80 oil. I want to see 100, 150. That would really help my day job out. $150 oil be very helpful. Okay. But the broad America doesn't want that. What they want is, they would probably they really want Trump oil gas prices. They want to see $1 natural gas and, $45 oil, because that's $1.50 per gallon to fill up your tank. You can go cross country for $200. Yep. Not everybody wants, but so I say all that to say OPEC can only do so much. If we are entering an actual recession, which, the markets are fairly mixed right now. We're sitting at 41 on the S&P. NASDAQ continues to climb. Theoretically, we've been in a recession, but I don't think anybody would. I don't know if you asked individual Americans just straight up, do you feel like you're in a recession?
Yes.
Things are more expensive. Does that mean we're in a recession? I don't know. But there's also the definition of a recession, which they've changed. But the idea of a recession more has to do with, how does the country feel? And this is just me. When I interact with people, I don't feel like they think we're in a recession. I don't know. I think the data says we're in one, but I think, Stu, the people I don't think the people I just meet on a daily basis, nobody's like, the first thing they're telling me is not, man, we're in a recession, like they were in 2008, or they were back in these times when it was clear there was something going on. Everyone's just asking about, the bank crisis. That's crazy. It's all about these banks. And it's almost like there's this Game of Thrones going on, where the individual person's like, well, cool, I've got cash. I'm good.
Well, inflation's killing them, but the number one thing is food.
Well, and obviously that's really what people are talking about. Inflation is different than a recession, though. A recession is where people are worried about, am I going to make it from day to day? I think what people are a little bit more worried about is, holy smokes, like the value of everything I own is just decreasing. It's a little bit different. I don't think that, and maybe we're saying the same thing I'm saying the same thing as you from the other side. I don't feel like there's just the recession vibe that's out there. It's a vibe, as much as weird as that is to say.
In my generation, there is, but I'll leave it there.
In your generation, there's a recession? You own all the homes.
Do what?
You own all the property.
Well, somebody's got to be a slumlord.
I feel you. All right. I think there's one quick story I'd like to mention. I actually saw this morning while I was scrolling through our website, catching up. National Bank of Canada. You think they're getting out of oil and gas? Stu, they're not. Headline: Phillips 66 shares acquired by National Bank of ... Canada. They've increased their shares in Phillips 66 by 150% in just the fourth quarter, according to the company's most recent disclosure with the Securities and Exchange Commission. I'm telling you, people, I only say this because the smart money will always invest the smart way. They're not dumb. So why are they investing? They see the value. Just you can see the value. They're not dumb. They don't want to lose money for their investors. They like to make money. They like to virtue signal and say, we're going to never invest in oil and gas, but then an opportunity to buy low on Phillips 66. And what do? 150% increase.
Yep.
$4.2 million.
There was another article this morning.
And the problem is people believe them when they're like, we're not investing in oil and gas. It's like, just look, just read, go to the world's greatest website and check it out.
There was an article I put out this morning. I'm trying to remember when it was. Let's see here. There's a couple other public employees city firms, city investments, retirement funds are starting to invest in energy.
Oh yeah, you got Vanguard's in on it, State Street's in on it. I mean, everybody's buying oil and gas. So it's industry wide. Speaking of buying oil and gas, ExxonMobil eyes potential purchase of shale driller Pioneer. Done. This was an article that the Wall Street Journal broke on Friday. ExxonMobil has held preliminary talks, this is the first paragraph, with Pioneer Natural Resources about a possible acquisition of the U.S. shale oil producer, according to the Wall Street Journal on Friday, citing people familiar with the matter. Both, obviously, Exxon and Pioneer declined to comment. The report said that, quote, Exxon views Pioneer as a top target to put its, quote, windfall profits to use. That's a strategic quote, windfall profits. I love that. That gets me going because that's a shot. That's what they want Biden's administration to read and be like, and they just want to get because there's nothing there they can really do. It just stirs them up because they know there's not much the Biden administration can do realistically in the short term to hurt them. So this is a shot to the heart. I love that. Quote, windfall profits to use, adding that the talks may not lead to formal negotiations and Exxon may target another company. Ooh, we're going to get back to that, Stu, because I think there's a couple other interesting companies that could have. I like the next
one there. 55.7 billion on Sky High is what they earned last year. Wow.
Yeah. So, and that's really all this article talks about. There's not much more other than somebody leaked this. So as always, what we do with these articles is we have to sit back and think about who leaked this.
Right. So, good point. Yes.
Who leaked this? Because both of them declined to comment. So obviously neither of them really want to confirm this. So obviously there's four parties. There's Exxon, there's Pioneer, and then there's the representatives for each of them. I always throw out the representatives because they're not in the business of leaking this stuff, because if they start leaking this stuff, they get no business. Like there are so many of these M&A deals that happen that never even make it to this point, where if they make it to this point, there's huge contemplation on some side because they're not leaking to the Wall Street Journal that they're going to do something if they've not already decided or have gotten to some comfortability with either doing it or they want to confirm one way or the other with public sentiment. So let's throw out whoever their advisors are and let's look at Exxon and Pioneer. Well, you could make a case for either. If you're on Exxon's side, you could be trying to drive the price down a little bit because maybe there's competition, or maybe Pioneer is considering, do we sell higher or do we acquire and try to become an Exxon? So maybe Exxon's saying, hey, we need to get this out there that we want to do this and we want to put pressure on Pioneer and Pioneer shareholders to take this deal so that Pioneer doesn't go out and use its windfall profits. Because think about it. Pioneer, they describe in the article, the full Wall Street Journal article of, 30 years of premium drilling inventory available, 900,000 acres of premium drilling inventory.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of inventory, They'd like to, if we just talked about Exxon diving headfirst into E&P, why would it not want to go acquire some of the most prime acreage in the Permian? Very interesting. you're Pioneer. Do you leak this? I don't know. That one's a little tougher for me to see. Put myself in Pioneer's shoes. Exxon wants to buy us. Or are we shopping ourselves? That's the other question. Are we shopping ourselves? Are we trying to leverage Exxon against itself? Now, I think what's interesting about this is, what was the other quote in here? Exxon views Pioneer as a top target to put its windfall profits to use, and the talks may not lead to formal negotiations, and Exxon may target another company. So this would tell you that it looks like this is coming from an Exxon side. So I think we can clearly say that. But I think it's also interesting. May target another company. Ooh.
Right.
Ooh, spicy. Okay. So this is probably a negotiation to bring the price down. This is probably a negotiation on Exxon's side to leak this and drive the price down. We want to buy you, but we're also targeting other people.
Wow. So this is the advanced level of going to a car dealership and having them sit there and having listen to your conversation with your spouse. I like that.
A little bit. Okay.
Yeah.
The real question is, do we believe there are other companies involved or not? Now, if you believe the first article that we went over, which was, remember, they're pivoting out of high cost, low profit chemical business into exploration and production. Well, they got to do something with all that money. So where are the two places that are growing? One of them that they mentioned in their development deck, Guyana offshore. And they're not even a full partner in that. Okay.
Right.
What's the next? And so that would tell you that offshore oil is probably where, if you're going to dive headfirst into, if you're a super major, where can you see the biggest growth? That's probably number one. Number two, the Permian. I mean, it's just obvious. Like, it's the acreage and the ability to easily acquire large amounts of acreage and drill wells fairly quickly. No other place in the Permian to see the type of return that you're going to get. That's just at a high level. You could break down all the different areas in it, but I don't even want to go there.
Right.
So this move, why they like Pioneer? Because they're solely based in the Permian. So if you're going to look at who are these other companies they're looking at buying, I would just look at Permian operators. I got Diamondback. They're probably looking at Diamondback. Now, Diamondback's only sitting here at about a $30 billion market cap. Pioneer's about $50 billion market cap. So it's a little bit different. You could get a discount, but Diamondback doesn't have the infrastructure in terms of the acreage that Pioneer has. Okay.
And locations.
And locations. You could say, well, Hess is the lead operator in Guyana. Could they buy out Guyana? Maybe. They're not going to buy Hess. They don't want to go up and operate in the Bakken. It's not what Exxon wants to do. They're smarter than that. So I think you can cross Hess off the list. The real question is Marathon.
Wow.
Well, no, excuse me, not Marathon, Oxy. The real question is the other company, Oxy. I mean, think about it. Oxy is in a credibly advanced Permian acreage position. They've been shopping Colorado for years, trying to get it off their hands. Warren Buffett is buying heavily into Oxy. He would love nothing more than to see a little bit of a return on his investment. When you look at the difference of market caps, I mean, Pioneer's 48, Oxy's 56. That's negligible. So if they can buy Pioneer, they can buy Oxy. I personally think if there's another company they're talking to, it's Oxy. And maybe there's a deal to be made to buy Oxy and immediately sell Colorado, and you sell it at a discount. You can sell it for $4 or $5 billion versus the 8-9 which they really want, which I've heard.
Let me give you my 2 cents. The difference between Oxy and Pioneer, I would take Oxy. 2 reasons. Warren Buffett likes it. Number 2, they are going after the multi-trillion-dollar carbon capture market. That to me says you can go green without having to lose your focus, and Oxy's the number 1 there. I think that is a smarter play than Pioneer, although Pioneer has better drilling, in my opinion. I could be wrong. Pioneer's
cheaper. So maybe this article very well could be trying to drive the price down for Pioneer.
Wow.
You're gonna have to pay a premium. Their market cap's $49 billion. They're not letting it go for $49 billion. It's probably a $60, $70, $80 billion play. Oxy's probably $100 billion. So I think it's a matter of trying to drive the price down for Pioneer
What's a few billion between friends, Michael?
All I know is whatever is going to happen here, if Exxon does go out and buy one of these mega large caps, it'll blow out the XTO acquisition. It'll blow out the Mobil, the Exxon and Mobil merger, along with Texaco in 98. Yeah. So, I mean, it's going to be spicy. This will take a while, though. This won't happen tomorrow. This is going to happen in the summer. This will happen. Someone will drag their feet to see what continues to happen.
Right.
So,
that's pretty cool, Michael.
Love a little spicy M&A action.
And you heard it.
I'm not sure if this will end up happening. It'll be very interesting. If you had a gun to my head, I don't think it happens. But I think they go out and buy somebody a little bit smaller. I'd say they buy Diamondback if I had to go with it, because it's going to be cheaper. It's going to be.
I love Diamondback.
It's a mini Pioneer.
They are, but they don't have the play.
But does Exxon need that? Does Exxon really want? They're clearly shifting all into E&P. Do they want to now bring in a whole nother unit?
I don't know. I need to go look at their numbers again.
Go look at the numbers, Stu. You let us know. You got anything else for today?
No, I just hope everybody has a fantastic week after Easter, and hope they got to hug their family.
Yeah, absolutely. So we appreciate you guys checking us out. We are back all this week. World's greatest podcast, energynewsbeat.com. Check us out. We'll let you guys get out of here, though. Thanks for checking us out. Have a great week, guys. See ya.